Welcome back to the Psycho Nurse, where psychology meets understanding. If you're new here, hit subscribe and join me as we uncover how the mind works, one diagnosis at a time. Today, we're diving deep into the book that shapes modern mental health, the DSM. What is it? How does it work, and why is it so controversial? Let's find out. The DSM, or Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, is published by the American Psychiatric Association. Think of it as the official guide that mental health professionals use to diagnose everything from depression and bipolar disorder to PTSD and schizophrenia. For each disorder in the DSM, there are specific rules. It lists the exact symptoms you must have, how long those symptoms must last, and how much they need to interfere with your daily life. It also lists what other conditions must be ruled out first. This system is why two professionals on opposite sides of the world can look at the same symptoms and reach the same diagnosis. It's all about consistency. But the DSM has changed a lot since it was first published back in 1952. The first two versions, the DSM-I and DSM-II, were heavily influenced by Sigmund Freud's psychoanalytic ideas. They focused more on emotional reactions rather than observable symptoms. Then, in the 1980s, the DSM-III completely revolutionized psychiatry. It introduced clear, specific diagnostic criteria checklists that could actually be studied and tested. The DSM-IV later added more cultural awareness. The DSM-V, released in 2013, took things a step further by making psychiatry more dimensional, viewing disorders as existing on a spectrum rather than in rigid boxes. The latest version, the DSM-V-TR, which stands for text revision, came out in 2022. It includes new updates like prolonged grief disorder and revised language for conditions, like gender dysphoria, showing how the manual continues to evolve. So how is this massive book organized? The DSM is divided into three main sections. Section 1 explains how to use the manual and provides the official definition of a mental disorder. Section 2 contains the full list of disorders, organized into categories from neurodevelopmental conditions like autism to personality disorders like borderline personality disorder. And Section 3 is for the experimental stuff. It includes emerging models, cultural formulation tools, and conditions that are still under study, like internet gaming disorder. The structure is systematic, but it's also flexible enough to change as our scientific understanding grows. Now, when a clinician uses the DSM, it's not as simple as just ticking off boxes on a checklist. The diagnostic process is much more nuanced. It usually starts with an interview where the therapist listens carefully to your experiences, symptoms, and personal history. Then, they compare what you've described to the official criteria in the DSM. A crucial step is ruling out other causes. They have to check if your symptoms might be coming from a medical issue, a side effect of medication, or substance use. And for any diagnosis to be made, your symptoms must cause significant functional impairment, meaning they interfere with your work, relationships, or overall well-being. The DSM even includes a cultural formulation interview to help clinicians avoid misdiagnosis across different cultural backgrounds. It's truly a blend of art and science, a combination of careful observation, empathy, and evidence-based criteria. Let's talk about some of the major disorder categories you'll find in the DSM. You have the schizophrenia spectrum disorders, characterized by symptoms like hallucinations, delusions, and disorganized behavior. Then, there are the depressive disorders, defined by persistent sadness or a loss of interest in activities you once enjoyed. Bipolar and related disorders involve alternating episodes of mania and depression. Anxiety disorders cover conditions marked by excessive worry, fear, and physical tension. And personality disorders describe enduring patterns of behavior and inner experience that affect relationships and self-image. Each category has its own detailed criteria, which helps clinicians differentiate between symptoms that might look similar on the surface. You might have also heard about something called the ICD, that stands for the International Classification of Diseases. While the DSM is primarily used by mental health professionals in the United States, the ICD is published by the World Health Organization and is used globally for all medical diagnoses, not just mental health. The good news is that the two systems are now closely aligned. This means a diagnosis made using the DSM will match the corresponding code in the ICD, ensuring global consistency for billing and research. Of course, the DSM isn't without its controversies. Critics argue that it can pathologize normal human behavior. turning everyday emotions like grief or shyness into diagnosable disorders. Others question the influence of pharmaceutical companies in the process of defining new conditions, wondering if it creates a market for more medication. Some also point out that applying a label to someone can lead to stigma or can cause people to over-identify with their diagnosis. But perhaps the biggest criticism is that psychiatry still lacks objective biological tests for most mental illnesses. This means diagnosis relies on reported symptoms, not on brain scans or blood tests, leaving it open to a degree of subjective interpretation. So what does the future of diagnosis look like? Researchers are actively exploring new models. One is called RDOC, which stands for Research Domain Criteria. Instead of focusing on symptoms, it studies the underlying brain circuits, genes, and behaviors that cut across different disorders. In the future, artificial intelligence might be able to analyze speech patterns, facial expressions, and even brain scans to detect the earliest signs of mental illness. Psychiatry is slowly but surely shifting from just describing disorders to truly understanding their biological roots. The DSM may not be perfect, but it remains the foundational framework of modern mental health care. It serves as a powerful reminder that mental illness is not a character weakness, it is a part of the human condition. And with every new edition, we get one step closer to understanding the most complex and fascinating organ of all, the human mind. If you found this video insightful, make sure to subscribe for more psychological breakdowns every week. This is the Psycho Nurse, reminding you to care for your mind because healing starts with understanding. Thanks for watching.